hairs on my body started standing on end.
Silent. Nothing there.
I fought to get back into my body.
You are going to be of vital importance of helping us convince the masses.
Type 471.
Type 471.
Bridge to the other world.
Bridge to the other world.
Welcome to Type 471. I'm Sam Kitchen. Bill is grieving the recent loss of his wife, who died unexpectedly. Together, Bill and his wife shared an ongoing experience that was as fantastic as it was bizarre. Recently, some startling and unexpected similarities in the reports of 3 experiencers I've been working with immediately stood out to me. Nigel, from whom we heard last week, T, from whom we'll hear in the near future, and Bill, whose story we're about to hear. For this and many reasons, I urge you to pay close attention. See if you can spot the parallels. I will discuss them in a future episode. Bill's experience shows us how little we know and highlights the need to broaden our scope in order to understand. So, Bill, you emailed me. You told me that, about all these things that are happening, and then, of course, about the passing of your wife a week ago from an aneurysm. And so what made you decide to share this information right now?
Well, I think the world needs to know. There's a lot of stuff that they're not getting.
That they're not understanding, that isn't understood. Yeah, I hear you. You mentioned that your wife didn't want you to tell anybody. Why is that? Why didn't she want you to tell anybody about this?
Oh, because people think you're a freak. I told one of my friends up the hill, and he says, I told him about the band room and all the little solar system people that showed up, and then he told me, and then he said, and then the crack wore off, huh? That's all I told him.
Yeah, I don't blame you. People can have that reaction sometimes, and they can be really kind of nasty about it.
Yeah, we've been writing all this stuff down and asking people that come in the house, and because she'll see one thing and I'll see another. It's like we were taking pictures of our fireplace, and she was holding the camera up over the fireplace, and there was a kid and a little girl and a big rat guy. And I asked her, what do you see? And she goes, a boy and a girl and a frog man with frog legs. And it turns out she likes frogs and I like rats. So we asked them if they could tell us who they are. And they just walked out.
Wow. So there is a subjective element to your experience. You're both experiencing it, and you're experiencing similar things, but you're also experiencing different things at the same time in a subjective sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And earlier I saw the rat guy in the band room. It's a reflection I see off of the sliding glass door. They look like they're sitting in on a bench in back of you. The people that need to get charged up and leave.
The people who need to get charged up and leave? What do you mean by that?
Well, let's see. We were in there, and she took a picture of the sliding glass door, and there was 3 guys standing in front of the speakers, getting charged up. We couldn't see them, and then as soon as the flash started, they took us like into their time and completely slowed down time, and they were doing this zigzag thing back and forth and up and down, and then they went through the glass, and then we came back, and they appeared on the deck as 3 men with clothes, and they were looking at their hands and their feet for like about a minute, and then they looked straight up in the sky and took off like bullets.
Wow. How long ago did this happen?
Last April.
Okay, so just about a year ago.
Yeah. Well, there's daytime ghosts too here. You don't have to all night.
So you experience these things both during the day and at night?
Yeah.
When and how did these experiences begin? Do you remember the first time?
Well, see, she was in the band room, standing on a chair, hanging over the drum set, taking pictures of me playing drums. And then the front of my drum set lit up. And then she's all, "Hippie, are you doing this?" Oh, no. And then she stopped taking pictures and she started looking. See, years ago she said she would go out and hunt orbs or look for orbs and take pictures and stuff. I don't think she ever saw one. But the solar systems we see, it looks like a miniature solar system like the one we have here. It's kind of like an atom with a nucleus, and the little things that spin around it. And it turns out that's their chest. That's all the energy from their chest. Because when the three guys turned into those little balls, disappeared and they turned into men.
I see. Okay, I'm kind of getting the gist of what you're talking about. One of the experiences that you emailed me about earlier was the one that you mentioned a moment ago. You also mentioned something about a creek lifting up into space and hundreds of ships that disappeared in a triangle over your house. Tell me about that.
The ships were about 2 months ago, and it was 6:45 at night, and I went out to get some wood, and I looked up, and they were coming from the mountain range. Not from the mountain range, but you can see them coming off of the mountain range, going straight up over our house.
Are we talking about the Marble Mountains?
Yeah. Well, no, those are on the other side. Oh, yeah, that's the Marble Mountains. And then I counted, I don't know, I think about 150 of them, and they were all uniformed. None of them were out of line, and there was one after the next. And then I ran in and got Janelle, and we came out, and I think we counted like 60 or 75 more. And they go into this triangle and just disappear, straight above our house. Nobody in town. And there's an airport like 3 miles from us, and nobody saw anything. Oh, and then the last two ships spun around and they touched noses for a second, and then they went in opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still here somewhere.
So, let me see. You mentioned the first time that it began when you were in your band room. So how long ago was that?
Last April.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then after the room got filled with them, two small ones came over and they were talking to me. They were girls, and they said, "Do you want to join us?" And before I could say yes, my nose was stuck on one of my drums, and I couldn't move or do anything. And I was like, I don't know. It seemed like I was the size of a bee, and my nose was touching the drum head, and I couldn't move, and they were laughing at me. And then I got back into my body, I guess.
These girls who were present, they're the ones who were laughing at you?
Yeah, they asked me if I wanted to join them. Before I could say yes, I joined them, whatever they're doing.
Right.
They were having fun. Oh, and there was a girl underneath my drum set. She took a picture of, and her legs and butt were on the ground, and her torso and shoulders and neck went all the way around the drums and came out the front of the drums. Her head. She had this smile on her face.
And both you and your wife experienced this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have a lot of pictures. Would you mind texting those to me?
I've got a few. We got our computers hacked, and we got our identity stolen, and they stole most of our pictures. So I'm going to get them back. Oh, and there was one on Kidder Creek Road. They poke holes in this pipe, and they let the water squirt up on the hill to water the trees, and it created this great big huge funky-looking icicle house. So we pulled over so she could take a picture, and then she took a picture, and then she leaned down in the car and took a picture of me. And when we got home, all you could see was the outside of my head, and you could see right through my head through the window and see the trees and everything. Oh yeah, there's a picture of me with, it looks like a shaggy dog on one side of my head, and on the top of my other head it looked like two big lions split in two, like it was a double-headed lion or something. And these are coming out of my head. Wow. And there was another picture she took of me. I was sitting on the couch, and we went to look at it, and I looked like I was 500 years old. I had this long white hair and this long white beard and these funky eyes, and you couldn't even see my clothes. I don't know what I was wearing, but yeah. And then a couple weeks later, we looked at it, and it was gone. That happened like 3 times with the pictures. We got solid pictures, and they somehow they can go in the camera and do this. I mean, they have like 40,000 years. They're like 40,000 years above us.
How do you estimate that? Is this something that they told you, or it just kind of an estimate based on what you've observed of them?
Janelle told me I went in and curled up on the floor in front of the wood stove, and I stayed there for 3 days, and I don't even remember this. I remember getting out of bed, and I felt great. And that was before, or was it out? No, it was before it happened, or after. I don't know how they do that, but I was taken up into a ship, and a goddess was there. She put her hands over my eyes, told me not to peek, and she told me the whole story about the planets and the people, and what this planet was about, and what they do. And it's all stored in my head. She said if any other person on this planet knew everything that I knew, they would die.
Well, can we have some of that? Maybe not all of it. We don't want to kill anybody, but
When certain people say certain words, it unlocks another little piece of it.
I see. Well, that's
But
interesting.
I guess I was up there for 3 days listening to this whole story, and they can totally shift time, and I believe when we die and become spirits, we can do the same thing. There's a lot more things we can do than we can do on Earth.
I agree with that completely. So you say you moved from out of the area. How long have you been in this area?
Almost 9 years.
And these things you say began about a year ago. So nothing like that was happening before a year ago?
Let's see. Oh, the creek. Saw the creek lift. Oh, 6 other people saw the creek lift up because I called some guy on the internet, supposed to be FBI or something. And he said 6 other people saw it.
Really?
Since then, I found 2 of the people, and they haven't seen anything since. There was a ship here as big as this whole valley. It floated over here going like a mile an hour, and it was heading toward Etna, and they were dropping little gray guys down in front of homes, and then they float back up. I seen one come out of Janelle's room into the kitchen, and it pressed a button on its stomach, and it floated up through the kitchen sink and window, and then it went straight up. I told it to stop, and then I threw a lighter at it, and it had some kind of clear plastic suit on. Must be like a hazmat suit or something. But these are guys that can survive a flight that lasts 2,000 years that human people won't survive. And they can come here and do things and go back, and they're fine. What the goddess said was there was a ship that was out gathering, I don't know, some kind of information. She had all these strange words I've never heard, but it seemed seconds after she said it, I knew what she was talking about. And it crashed, and the Arabs wanted to help them, and they said like 10 minutes later they wanted to kill him.
I'm sorry, you said who wanted to help them?
Arabs. They crashed in the desert in a ship.
Oh, I see.
The Arabs said, we will help you, and then blah, 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 and then they tried to kill him, and they had to get stuff out of their ship because they didn't have weapons or anything like that, and they used stuff from their ship to keep him back. And then they got to know each other, and these are the guys that would put like a laptop or some kind of computer on top of a great big rock and press a button, and it would float up. See, we wanted them to start all the ley lines, get them all connected. The whole planet would work, but we've completely destroyed this planet. The only ley lines that work are up here.
Up here
By Vesta area. See, we're in a triangle, in the center of a triangle, right over ley line.
Right.
And seems to be ground zero. And there was a cabin that's my music room, and it was built in 1903, and they called it a gold miner's hut. They said it was a clock man, 6 clocks, and we've come out several times at night, and we've heard hundreds of clocks ticking out here. And then digging up her garden and digging up my garden and just digging up, we found clock parts everywhere. And she got a whole box of rocks that have like 4 or 5 faces on them, and then rocks that look like people are trying to get out of the rock.
Yeah, I've heard about the ley lines of this area. I know what you're alluding to, and for that matter, about the phenomena that occur in this area. I've been wanting to research what happens in this area for a long time. I've been wanting to investigate anyway, and then I lost everything in the campfire in Paradise. And after that happened, I chose to come to this area because I want to explore the things that go on in this area. And part of that is the ley lines that you're talking about. I've heard about that, and I wonder. I have some theories about how all this ties in with this particular area. It's obviously very complex. There's a lot that goes into it. So what was your...
I've seen the solar system people before. Well, that's what I call them, but it's their chest. That's all you could see is their energy from the chest. And when they needed to get charged up, we even had a misty guy come in because he was so weak, they like turn into mist. And he came in and got charged up and walked out of there in a white robe, and he had a white beard and kind of looked like Moses or something. That's what we called him. And he was very happy to see his body again. And then he took off. They all take off like bullets.
Just straight up into the air.
Yeah, they look up in the sky and they just take off like a bullet. We had a little Indian girl and an Indian boy here since we moved in, and since I think about 3 months ago, somebody helped them and they knew what to do and they left. But I saw the girl playing with my chimes on my drums, and I walked in and I kind of stopped, and she slowly turned, and we made eye contact. She went right through the chimes and right through the wall, just like a bullet. And the wind chimes are all bang, and she went through the wall. And I told them they could hang out in here if they don't unplug my speakers, because they saw me hooking my speakers up and they would unplug them. And my wife came in here, and the little Indian girl thought my wife was her mom because my wife was Indian. And she pulled on the back of her shirt really hard, like pull like that. And then we saw him again when she was taking pictures. The little kid guy was up sitting on my mixing board on the wall, and he was playing with a toy. And the little girl hangs out in back of the speakers. She's kind of afraid. Yeah, we heard him running up and down the hallway, and then sometimes at night they'd run across the deck. And then I saw him way before that in a mirror I had in the band room. I was just thinking about something, looking at it, and I saw 2 kids running across. And I turned around, and there's nothing there. And I looked back in the mirror, and they're chasing each other, having a ball. And I think they were Kurak Indians.
You're experiencing several different kinds of entities. Am I correct about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I point that out because that is actually very commonly reported.
We've never seen any cigar-shaped things or anything. They're usually 10 or 12 feet round, and they drop these little robot guys out that have like I don't know how to explain it, like the top of a jar lid, not the top. When you unscrew the lid and the glass piece is there, that's what it looks like they were walking on, and they made these really tiny little footprints, and they had these drag marks, like it was really hard for them to walk. And then there was holes in the ground, so they were extracting minerals. And then they would scuff their way back, and then they get sucked up in their little ship. But I found them out back picking up my golf balls. Nobody's been out there for 100 years, and that's what it looked like to me. I could see their landing gear, and I put rocks where they put the landing gear, and I measured it. And it was like 10 or 12 feet round was the landing gear, so I don't know how big the ship was. And the night before, I saw some lights out there, and I didn't even think of anything. I guess I wasn't supposed to. I wanted to walk out there and see what was going on, but I didn't care.
When was your most recent experience?
Yeah, I really can't think right now. I've had some really harsh days here where I couldn't even speak. because of my wife.
Right. I hear what you're saying.
We had the feds here for some reason. I think maybe that was the bird or something, or whatever it was. We go to the store and come back. Our front and back doors are open. They would watch us go in the store, and they had their microphones, their little CBs and stuff, and then they were watching us down at the end of the street here. So I just walked down and I go, "What the hell do you guys want? I'll tell you anything." What? They just drive off.
When did you first notice the presence of the feds? Was it shortly after an experience that you had had?
Yeah, it was Clickety. We called him Clickety because he hangs out in the backfield here. And in the summer, he does this clickety sound. And I don't know if he's here to guard us or what, but this one morning we got up and we found these really weird footprints in our garden. It was like some weird monkey pawed short guy, probably weighed like 50 or 60 pounds from the drag marks. And he must have had a chain or something around his neck because this other guy pulled him down off of Janelle's little she shed that she built and drug it out onto the lawn. And you could see their footprints. And the other guy's footprints had 4 toes, and he had these jagged marks on the inside of his feet. So the inside of his feet were hollow, and it had these jagged things, so it could like grab trees or something. And it pulled this little monkey guy out on the lawn, and then where they were on the lawn, there was a triangle, like a burn mark, but the grass was all white. And then over by our bedroom window, it was white there for quite a long time, until I put some metal on the side of where we sleep, the head of our bed. I put some metal on the outside wall. That seemed to stop the abductions.
Oh.
I woke up one night and my face was in the middle of the wall. I could smell the insulation, and then they pulled me through.
I was going to ask you about that. You mentioned being stuck in the wall.
No, they were pulling me through the wall, and I woke up and I could see the insulation, and I could see the wood, and I could smell the wall. And then they pulled me through, and then I was back asleep.
Wow. Yeah, that actually reminds me of something I've heard about before. That has also been reported before. That's not entirely uncommon, that sort of thing. Wow. So, okay, you mentioned a monkey guy a minute ago. When did this monkey guy first appear?
Let's see. I think last September.
Okay. And he first appeared in the context of an encounter with these beings that have been interacting with you?
No, this happened at night when we were sleeping.
Oh, okay.
I got up the next morning and saw these footprints, and we took pictures of them, and I drew them on a piece of paper.
Because when I hear monkey guy, I have to think Sasquatch or consider the possibility of a Sasquatch. Do you think this might have been a juvenile Sasquatch?
No, it was obviously somebody's animal or something, and he was pulling it off of her roof down on the ground, and you could see where the monkey guy landed, and then there was like a struggle, and there was drag marks, and the guy was like 5 or 6 feet away, so there had to be a chain or some kind of strap or something. And he pulled them out on the lawn, and they disappeared.
Just so I'm clear, you're mentioning a guy dragging him. Who is this guy?
I don't know. Never saw him, but he had looked like human feet, but there was 4 big toes, and the center was hollow, and it had jagged grab things like a crab or something,
The guy dragging him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he dragged him on the lawn. There was a triangle-shaped thing where the grass turns all white, and we had those all over the lawn in front of the house for a while.
Well, I would love to come out and investigate all this.
They took us both to a ship, I think 3 times, and we were both awake in the ship, and we knew what was going on. And there was one ship we wandered around in, and we found this room, and we found this thing, and I put it on my head, and she like laughed, and then I go, "You need to put this on your head," and she did. And since then, there's nothing we can do. We can do anything. Seems like we know everything about this planet, and it's just so small.
Are you saying that you and your wife both put on this helmet? Like you took turns putting this helmet on?
Yeah. And after that, we could do anything. She could sit down on a piano and play everything Elton John can play. I can play everything that the Beatles can play and Paul McCartney can play.
And you couldn't?
And before that, I only knew like 3 songs. She taught me Paperback Writer and Benny and the Jets. Yeah, just about everything Elton John has played, she can just play.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I can play all stuff.
Do you think you have access to other types of information, like encyclopedic knowledge?
No, I have knowledge from a goddess that filled my head up for 3 days, explaining all the planets here and what they were here for, and clear up till now. They were just surprised we were alive, because this was a toxic waste dump kind of thing to them, and they didn't even go here. And all these people have antennas, not kind of antennas, they're kind of pointy looking, I don't know, bone things? I don't know. But they have antennas, and they're either 40,000 years or 400,000 years more advanced than us. Because when she explained numbers, it was hard for me to understand. But when certain people say a certain word, it unlocks another chunk of that.
Do you know what these words are?
No. After it happened, though, I should have wrote them down. There was a bunch of words that she called our home. I forgot, but, and then where we were up there was called something else, and she told me not to peek. I peeked anyway, but there was nothing there but white light. I thought I was going to see a ship or something. Oh, and then Cartiel was an old soul that crashed in the desert many, many years ago. They were glad to see him back. Me and him were the first people to travel all the way there, and they were glad to see him. He was sleeping in me, I think since I was 8 years old.
So you have interacted with him since the time of about 8 years old, or he had been present?
In dreams, yeah. They would. I would sit on the end of my bed when I was like 6, and my eyes would be open. I could see the room, but I would still be in a dream state, and I was steering the bed with my mind through these caves, up and down and around, and this and that. And it was kind of like a weird game to me. I told my sister about it, and she goes, "Oh, I have those dreams all the time," and I thought she wasn't lying, but she was. I found out. And then they put me in dreams where I'd have a big box of circuit boards and solder and this and that, and people needed a walkie-talkie, so I'd build them a walkie-talkie. You know, my wife used to call me MacGyver because I could make anything out of anything.
Wow, that's quite a talent. Well, you had mentioned this entity that had been present in your life since about the age of 6, and you had mentioned his name, but I didn't quite catch it because you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I know you live in a very rural area, so
here, I'm on the cordless phone. I'll go into the music room.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'll make it a little easier. So you mentioned this entity's name, and I was wondering if you could repeat that.
Cartiel.
Cartiel, okay.
And when I first heard it, I thought they were calling me Cartel, and I didn't say anything.
And have you physically seen this entity? What does it look like?
Oh, he could look like anything. He was always in my dreams. He was always next to me, and he would show himself as, you know, people that I like or look up to or whatever. He was what was that guy's name? Kelso from the 70s Show?
Yeah.
He was Kelso, so we'd go into supermarkets and steal stuff and break windows and have fun. And he took me to a bunch of my past lives where I could smell food cooking, and watch an old black and white TV, and I knew this kid Tommy, and I knew all the neighbors. They knew who I was. And when we left the house, I grabbed my skateboard and I knew which step on the stairs to jump on because it was loose and it would give a little, so you could jump on your skateboard. And this is all the stuff that I didn't know, but I knew when I was dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole bunch of dreams like that. I think those are the people maybe he slept in.
I see.
Because he's trying not to age.
Oh.
He's one of the guys that crashed here. One of the survivors. I think there was 90 something or 900. I forgot. Survivors. Oh, I think it was 90 that got away. And those are the old spirits. And they were sent out to do, I don't know, they were looking for things for other planets. They can make anything except animals and trees.
How old are you, Bill?
I'm 56 years old.
Okay. And you have been experiencing this particular entity since approximately the age of 6, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to get an idea of a timeline and kind of organize things in my mind this way. Also, I wanted to ask you on a somewhat related note, if I may, how old was your wife at the time of her passing?
54 years old.
Okay. All right, thank you. I ask because it actually is strikingly similar to something else I was told recently, and I'm just trying to find out everything that those things may have in common.
Oh, and I was taken to the place from playing drums in my band room. I get really charged up, and I have a skull out front. I found it at the dump, and it makes these. It sounds like crows and people going, oh, the Halloween thing.
Right.
And I put it out front of the studio, and the batteries were dead. So every time I open the door to the studio, it charges it up.
Oh. Wow. Okay, so we're
anyway,
talking about like a Halloween decoration type novelty skull. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was totally dead, and before I could get batteries, I had the door open, and I walked by, and it just came on.
Wow.
And then if I leave the door shut, it's dead. But I leave the door open for like 5 minutes, it's charged up again.
And it doesn't have a solar panel or anything on it like that?
No.
Interesting.
I was going to tell you, I was taken to this place. It took like, I don't know, 90th of a second or something. And it was supposed to be like a 2,000-year travel. This is where Cartiel took me when he was still in me. And when I got there, somebody hit me in the back like 3 times really hard. And this guy said, Cartiel, you have been brought here. Then I forgot what happened because he was extracted from me, and they were all glad to see Cartiel, but not me, and then they sent me back.
Do you have a sense of the place where this occurred?
Yeah, everything's solid there. There was a very tall, buffed Chinese man, and there was three monk guys with like bald heads, and they wouldn't show their faces. They had their backs turned. And there's a guy in a neatly folded diaper and no shirt, and he had white hair and these great big, huge, perfect eyes. And oh yeah, I remember this. He came up to me and he said, without moving his lips, just a minute. Then he went and talked to the 3 monks. Then he came back and he raised his eyebrow and he says, "You're on the right track." And right when he said track, I was already back home.
Amazing.
Oh, and they were in a floating wood chariot. It looked like a chariot, but it had no wheels. It was floating in the air, and the guy that hit me in the back told me not to touch it, but I did because it had really cool inlay in it because I used to make guitars, and I wanted to touch it, and as soon as I put my hand on it, it moved like it maybe weighed like a half ounce, this whole thing.
So much of this is it resonates with me in terms of things that I have encountered about.
Oh, I remember a word. You just said something. Oh God. When they crashed on this planet, they had a thing called a sarcophagi, and if they got hurt or killed, they would put them in this sarcophagi, and it would charge them up, or it would send them home. And there's nothing like that here, and I guess they can't get one here, even with the gray people. The little gray aliens are supposed to be 15 times smarter than any human, but it's a weird like animal to them that could outlive them for space flight.
You mean that we're like a weird animal to the grays?
No, they're the spirits of the people that crashed here have spanned out. They go around and take their time who they're going to sleep in, so they can survive. And I don't know if there's any other survivors. There was this cartel, and he took me to the place, and then I was back in my bed.
Do you know exactly when they crashed here?
I'm not sure. I'm not really good with numbers, and when they explain the numbers, I can kind of understand it, or I'll shake my head yes, just to hear the rest of it. And I heard it for days and days and days.
Right.
And this is when my wife said I was curled up on the floor in front of the wood stove for 3 days, and I don't remember. And the goddess in the ship said they can either do this before or after I was actually on the floor, whatever that means. Well, we saw a ship going toward Etna in front of 3 homes. It was probably 800 feet long, and the whole bottom of it was missing. About 10 feet up, there was a 10-foot row of lights all the way across. And we saw that for 2 nights. And then the next day we went by in the daytime and we looked to see if there was, they were stringing up fences or something, and there was nothing there, not even a tire mark. So they were doing something there. Oh, and they can hover above your house in tomorrow or yesterday, whatever that means, because there's really no time. But they can manipulate time. Oh, so can we. When we die and we turn into those little solar system guys. I think that they turn into that when they're running out of energy and they need to get charged up. I've seen them before in Ashland. They would go around in back of this old TV set and get charged up, and then they'd spin around real fast, and then they'd go get slower and slower, and they'd go back in front of the TV, and it's all they would do. According to my mixing board, and see, I have a mixing board that was designed in the 80s for fade-outs, so it's 100 below decibels. It's 100 below to fade out. And I built my own speakers and made my own crossovers to match everything. And my speakers are 106 dB instead of 96, which is normal. And when I play the music, there's absolutely no distortion whatsoever. And I think that's what they like. There was it looked like a Mr. Potato Head guy on the speaker cover, the grill cloth cover of the speaker, and he was like laying on his back, and he had his mouth was where his stomach is, or was on his stomach, and his little arms were back, and he had his mouth open like, yeah. And there's all sorts of beings like that look like little furry, cuddly animals that are like 40,000 years more experienced than us. And but the real people, they seem to all have antennas. They're like 40,000 years in the future, or they have 40,000 years on us. Like people from Mars and stuff. She explained all those people to me, and since then we've seen quite a few of them, and none of them are hostile. They're glad that we're here, and some of them even have a smile. Oh, there was a guy that looked like Moses. He had a white robe on and this white beard, and he had this pissed off look on his face. And then we were staring at him, he was staring at us, and then I figured we were standing right in the very center of the where the speakers line up. I have them both pointed at my drums so I can play drums. And so we moved, and then he came in and stood there for about a minute and then disappeared. Oh, and then there was a hippie couple that came in here, and it looked like a little window, a little glass window floating in here, and they were behind the windows, like sitting on a couch talking and blah, 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 and this and that. And then I could finally hear him. And I asked, how long have you guys been traveling? And they go, we've been walking about for 2 weeks. And when they came in, I could smell patchouli oil and rose oil. And I went and got the calendar, and I showed it to them, and they didn't even flinch. They were just smiling, happy that they were there.
So you think that they were humans who had crossed some sort of temporal boundary?
Temporal boundary?
Well, I mean, essentially that they had time traveled, that they were from a different time?
No, they were walking around for about 2 weeks.
Okay, I was just.
If you don't know about time when you die, a lot of people when they die, they'll just go, "Well, God, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I should go back to sleep," and then they'll wake up like 400 years later. I'm sure they were really high when they died, and that's all they knew. They were walking around for 2 weeks, and they always end up here because the energy that's room, everything in this room is charged up. So sometimes I can leave the stereo off and leave the door open, and they can just do their thing.
Do you think this room is connected to why these things are happening there?
Yeah, I do. There's a portal about 30 feet from here in front of one of my workshops that I built. My wife was sitting on the deck, and we were talking, and we heard this thing go zzz, like this, and it was a little, like, 3-foot tall man with yellow pencil number 2 legs. That's what it looked like, and they were like 3 feet long. And he came out of this flash of light, like in a hole, like a circle, and then I just put dirt down and grass seed in front of the porch, and his little pencil legs stuck in the dirt like 3 times. Then he flew above he had little wings. He flew above the studio and disappeared. And yeah, we both saw this.
That is quite something. All of this is quite something. You mentioned an experience wherein there were 6 other people who witnessed the same thing as you. Are these people that you're still in contact with?
No, I quit calling them because they didn't see anything else after that.
Right. I was just wondering if you could put me in touch with them, even if you don't, talk to them on a regular basis, if you just know how I could get a hold of them just so I can, get their perspective and flesh this all out.
Let's see, I'll drive over and see if they're there.
That'd be awesome.
They're still living there. There's only 200 people in town here. Well, not in town, but the area for Greenview.
Right. Yeah, I actually visited there a few months ago looking at a property because, like I said, I lost everything in the campfire, and I've spent a lot of time lately looking for a home. So, yeah, that's my experience with Greenview. So I really want to come out there and explore this area with you, see, what's going on there at Ground Zero, like you called it.
Do you have a good camera with a flash?
I absolutely do, yes.
Yeah, bring your camera and we'll come out to the music room and turn the stereo on and start taking pictures.
I am absolutely going to do that.
Let's see, what have I got? I have me standing in the music room with I told everybody to come out for a picture, and I held my hand out, and I go, sit in my hand, and there was a white ball above my hand.
I want to see this.
And then back, there was little solar system people in back of me floating around.
Wow, that's amazing. You certainly have a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, we had a lady come in here. She was I forgot what they call them, the ghost hunter people. They have some fancy name, entomologist or something. I don't know, but she stuck her head in here and decided she wanted to go home. And I go, what is your problem? I thought you wanted to see this stuff. She goes, well, I've got to go home. Bye.
is curious. I wonder why.
I don't know. I think she believes everything is evil and every spirit is evil and they're going to get you. They're ghosts. Boo, you know?
Well, she certainly seems to have sensed something that she didn't want any part of.
Yeah, we were never afraid of anything, except that the first night it happened, this room got so full of people, we had to walk out backwards taking pictures. And then after that, I'd leave the stereo on all night and put the carousel on and just let it play over and over.
And this would increase the activity or perpetuate the activity?
No, it would charge them up to where they could get the hell off this planet. They've been here too long. And all these people all have, they're like waiting in line, and they're not pissed off or anything. I guess that's how it goes here or on their planet or here, when you die and you have one of the original spirits in you, you have to wait your turn. There was like, the whole yard was full of them. There's a picture of me in the daytime, and they were going in and out of the ground. There was like probably maybe 100 or something. They were going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down all over the place. And I was just standing in the middle of them smiling.
Did you say this was during the daytime?
Yeah. And then since then, at night I just leave the stereo on.
And this charges them with the energy that is necessary to get off planet?
Yeah, to get off the planet. It's like there's nothing on the planet that can do that. See, I have it's probably the only mixing board left like this. It came out in the 80s. It was analog to digital board, and it's 100 below zero. And when I play music, it's probably 60 below zero. That's really loud. I've never brought it up to zero. It'd be too loud. But they seem to like it where you can just see the first two lights bouncing. It's like about 80 below zero.
Negative 80 decibels.
Yeah, and there's no distortion at all. They love it. Oh, Misty guy that came in here, he was just a bunch of mist. We took pictures of him, and then he was here for a couple minutes, and then turned right back into a human, and he had clothes on. We had a guy come in here he turned into a guy with clothes and glasses. And I asked him, I go, so there's ghost glasses or what?
Yeah, what did he need glasses for?
Only a few of them would talk. I was in here listening to Carole King, and there was a girl in here harmonizing with her. Did like 7 or 8 words. And then I turned it down and go, is there some kind of rule where you can't talk to me? And they wouldn't talk. And then there was sounded like a cowboy kid and his mom walking toward the band room, and he's going, look, Ma, it's the what do you say? Look, Ma, it's the pearly gates. And it sounded like he was a cowboy or something. And then I've heard people come in here, Bill? Is that Bill? No way, that's Bill?
Oh, weird.
One of my old musician friends or something.
Did it sound like the voice of somebody you knew?
Yeah, I did. But
Okay.
I haven't heard from him in like 30 years.
Wow. I wonder maybe he's passed on. I mean, I know he's not very old, but I mean, something could happen and maybe he passed away in the meantime, and maybe that's why you're hearing from him now, or maybe, he's not passed away and this is occurring because you're connected somehow. I mean, who knows exactly what's going on? And man, the things you're describing to me are so complex. I mean, there's no one way of saying, okay, this is exactly what's going on. And I think that's the realization that we're coming to in these kind of phenomena, that it's not as cut and dry as the way that we would like to label these things. I mean, we want to label something an extraterrestrial encounter or a ghost encounter, but I think these labels themselves are really elementary, and I don't think it's as black and white as these things. I mean, it's something very complex that is happening that we don't understand. I think that's all we can call it right now.
Yeah, we've been trying to understand everything so we could prepare ourselves, when we die. Well, I can just walk out of my body when I want.
Yeah.
And my body won't die. I always thought if I left my body would die because it would stop breathing or something. But I had this thing where, this is unbelievable, okay? I was laying in bed looking at the window, and all of a sudden I lifted up off the bed, and the window turned into this other window, and it was open, and there was bricks, and it smelled like honeysuckle, and it was sunny out, and I floated into the room, and it was a 13-year-old Paul McCartney, and I wanted to explain the words to a song that he'd written. And what was it? Was it Blackbird, or it was Yesterday? He wrote it as Scrambled Eggs. That's what I said. Your song Scrambled Eggs. I go, you're going to write it as this. Here, give me a pen. And I didn't have any hands, and he didn't have any hands either. And I told him the words to it, and then I floated back out of his window onto my bed. And I went on YouTube where he's talking about his songs and stuff, and he says, he interrupted the guy, and he pointed his finger up, and he goes, that song came to me in a dream.
No shit. Wow.
So, yeah, you can actually manipulate time.
Yeah, so you astral projected, you went back and spoke to Paul McCartney as a 13-year-old boy, roughly. He wrote the song with the lyrics that you gave him.
Yeah, he wasn't there either, but I could hear him. So we were both had no arms or legs. I couldn't write it down or anything, so I explained the words to him.
And when you said this thing about scrambled eggs, I didn't quite understand what that meant.
Oh, that's his song Yesterday. It was called Scrambled Eggs, and something about girls' legs that he wrote first, and I told him it's called Yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I gave him the words.
All right, so you altered the song into what it actually became.
I guess.
That's quite something.
That's all I know. But now I can play anything he's ever played on piano, I can play. Oh, except certain parts of Live and Let Die that the piano just disappears.
There seems to be something about sound and music that is very much a part of this experience.
I was a really crappy drummer. Well, I could play double bass and stuff, but I was really harsh on the drum rolls and the paradiddles and all that crap. And after we put on that head thing, I put Rush in, and I'm like stomping all over Neil Peart.
Wow! So you're really good now.
Oh yeah, I'm the drummer I've always wanted to be.
So you have mentioned using music, turning up the music to help these entities to energize to get off planet. Do you think it's the sound itself, the energy and the vibration itself, or the music itself, or a combination of all of that does it?
No, we think it's hypersonic, some kind of hypersonic energy that no one else has, because no one else uses a mixing board like this anymore.
So it all comes down to your audio equipment.
Yeah, I could leave it on. I could leave it on to where you can talk over it, and they're fine. They get charged up in like a minute or two, and they're done, and then they're gone. And then other people come in here, so I just leave the door open, or they can just walk right through it. But there's some people that don't know what's going on, and so that's why I leave the door open. So it seems like we've gotten rid of quite a few people, not just from this planet, from the other planets here too. The lady said the people from Mars were like 40,000 years or 400,000 years more advanced than Earth.
So when you say you've gotten rid of a lot of people, do you mean that you have used sound to help these entities energize and to reach a higher plane, or to reach whatever existence they're intended to have?
They're going back to where they belong. See, we don't even belong here. Well, the people with the spirits. There's certain people on this planet that do not have spirits, and I can't tell you that. I can't tell you who they are.
Why not?
Because I'll start forgetting stuff.
Okay.
So I tried to explain a few things, and all of a sudden I'm forgetting stuff. So I quit doing that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Or it's actually taken from my brain. But I have all the information stored in my head that would normally kill a human, and little by little it'll all come out.
And there's a very specific, or there are very specific ways, it sounds like, of accessing this information. Well, I'm glad you say little by little it'll all come out, because I really want to be a part of that. And I'm determined to get to the bottom of all of it.
Oh, the goddess in the ship, I was there for like 3 days or more, or who knows. She said, "Oh, now I'm forgetting. Oh my God."
That's okay. I'll tell you what, just hold on to it. Don't try to say anything about it, because I don't want you to lose anything. I think that's a natural stopping point. I'm so glad you got a hold of me, Bill, and I'm really glad to have talked to you today. We're going to be talking again very soon.
Oh, I have a book that I've been writing all this stuff in, and my mom has it right now. She's been reading it.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think you really need to write a book. You need to get it out there in as many ways as you possibly can.
Well, 90% of the people wouldn't even believe it, so.
Sure, but maybe like I said earlier, I do this because I think bringing these things to people's attention is a way of expanding consciousness. So maybe once consciousness is expanded enough, it then allows people to incorporate this kind of thing into their thinking, and it allows them to receive this type of information. Bill, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Alrighty.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. In working with Bill, I have become certain of a few things. First of all, Bill is telling the truth. Secondly, whatever the nature of these occurrences, and despite some undoubtedly subjective aspects, they are based in some form of objective reality. And finally, a unique harmony and energy that existed between Bill and his wife seems to have been a prominent factor in their shared experience. Are you beginning to see some commonalities? Keep paying attention. Look for Type 471 Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook. You can find this show at type471.podbean.com and across a quickly expanding list of platforms. I'm Sam Kitchen. Thanks for listening to Type 471.